Detective Superintendent Rob Critchlow, spelled Critchlow. I'm here with colleagues from the Federal Police and the Border Force who will also make comments when uncompleted. Yesterday morning about 9:30, officials in the port of Newcastle near Kooragang Island noticed that a person was floating in the water. They retrieved that person. It turns to be a male who was dressed in scuba equipment. He was given first aid by those people and members of the ambulance service, and he died at the scene. During inquiries and investigations of the area, a large amount of what we believe are drugs were located not far from the dead man, and inquiries are continuing as to where those drugs came from, whether this man had any links to it at all. The vicinity of the dead man was a large vessel registered overseas known as the Arete, which had left from Argentina to travel to Australia and berthed at berth number 2 in Heron Road at Kooragang Island. Detectives from the Organised Crime Squad were called up to assist by the Newcastle Police District, who did the first response, and were assisted by our divers from the Water Police. We were also assisted in our response by members of the Federal Police and our Australian Border Force. Inquiries have shown that on the night of the Sunday before, which is the 8th of May, about midnight, an inflatable boat, like a small rubber dinghy or a rubber ducky, and a 5-metre aluminium Quintrex runabout with a green stripe was seen also near the ship, conducting some sort of task of which we haven't confirmed yet in the darkness. So we're seeking public assistance to identify those vessels. The man at this stage is unknown to us. We have not identified him. We've done a number of checks through records and systems in Australia, and we have failed to identify that man at this point. So anybody who may be able to assist the police with the identity of this man are asked to call Crime Stoppers on 1800 333 000. Also, anybody who has knowledge of the 2 boats we've discussed near the ship. And we can also confirm that the man was wearing scuba equipment, including a wetsuit of a shark skin brand, which was possibly purchased within Australia. So we'd ask anyone from dive shops who may have sold a set of diving equipment to a person in the last few days to contact us. The equipment was of note. It was a high-end rebreather, which is a specialised piece of diving equipment used by people with high levels of training. So again, we ask that anybody who knows anything about that equipment, please assist us. We remain open-minded as to the circumstances of this man's death. All we know for sure is that a man has died, and we also know for sure we've located some drugs. We are trying to identify whether the 2 incidences are linked, and they may well be, but we're certainly open-minded as to the options in front of us. I'll hand over now to Mr. Cianta from the AFP to discuss their involvement in the case.
Good morning, everyone. Detective Superintendent Matthew Cianta, CIANTAR. Australian Federal Police is working with our partners here locally, New South Wales Police and Australian Border Force, to assist with the investigation here in New South Wales, but also, of course, through our extensive international network, reaching out through our partners, in particular in South America, to assist with inquiries offshore. From our perspective, we'll continue to work on the investigation as required. Happy to take any questions afterwards.
Good morning, everyone. Superintendent Tony Wheatley of Australian Border Force, Wheatley WHEATLEY. Look, the Australian Border Force have been working with the AFP and the New South Wales Police since the identification of the man. The vessel is currently being searched and has been searched for the last 24 hours. Every vessel that arrives in Newcastle is assessed by the Australian Border Force, both crew and also the vessel. Look, the investigation is currently underway, so it would be inappropriate for me to say too much further than that it's already been disclosed. But we are fully aware that cocaine, 50 kilos, is a significant amount. Australian users, local users, are paying probably the highest rate of cocaine in the world. And look, a message today is anyone thinking of importing cocaine into Australia, look, the risks are too high, and this is evident of that. Happy to take some questions later. Thank you.
Any questions?
How aware were police of drugs coming in through Newcastle Port before these 2 potentially linked incidents?
New South Wales Police and our partners have been aware of Newcastle Port being a transshipment point for some time. There have been some indications in the past of OMCG involvement around the docks, and again we've worked very closely with our partners to remove them from the system. It remains a point of risk because any port has a lot of movements, so a lot of ships, a lot of trucks, a lot of people, So it is easier to hide drugs amongst that. We know the Border Force spend considerable resources detecting those movements, but again, sheer volume makes it a risk. So we are certainly concerned about the ports of Newcastle and Wollongong, and organised crime definitely look for weaknesses to target those ports.
What sort of involvement is that? How does that sort of manifest? Is it working abroad? Is it influence elsewhere?
Yeah, there are definitely people in the supply chain that assist organised crime groups, and that remains a concern to us. There have been changes in legislation which we're working on to remove suspect people from the supply chain and targeting Australia, and that is a matter of ongoing concern.
Can you confirm whether the boat was registered in the Marshall Islands, and you'll be looking at the movements from there to come from there first to Panama and then to Argentina?
All I confirm is that the vessel, the Ariti, was registered in the Marshall Islands at the port of Maduro, and its point of origin before Australia was Argentina.
And what was the boat carrying?
Soy powder. Yeah, soybean powder.
And so is the boat now being searched for further evidence of drugs or suspicious activity?
Police and the Marine Area Command continue to search the vessel this morning, both beneath the vessel and inside. All the sailors and crew have been spoken to and interviewed, and that vessel will probably be allowed to move on with its journey tonight.
And so was it one of the workers on the boat that identified the man floating in the water, or was it someone external to the entire?
Someone external to the boat.
And when did that ship arrive?
That arrived over the weekend.
Was that first notification when the man washed up on the shore?
9:30 was when yesterday morning is when the man was discovered.
When was the last time something like this happened with drugs coming into the port and potentially divers being used?
Well, through the good work of the Federal Police Operation Ironside, they detected this methodology, and we have detected this methodology on and off over the years, and my colleagues will confirm that. But again, often the ships are innocent agents. They're utilised by crime groups to bring in the drugs unawares of the ship and the shipping company. That has utilised the structure of the ship to hide the drugs.
Could you connect this to any particular crime group as yet?
Not at this stage, but that's why the Organised Crime Squad is involved. We do have some information about general trafficking, and we'll certainly be leaving no stones unturned to find who sent this package, and also to identify this man so we can give information to his family, which is very, very important to us as well.
How sophisticated would you say this operation was in terms of the scale of
Oh, look, it's a high-end, sophisticated operation. We're looking at moving commodities and people across the world. But as Mr. Wheatley said, the high retail price for cocaine in Australia is a huge draw for international drug traffickers, and they're targeting our community with this poison to sell for a profit. So anyone who thinks it's funny to use a bit of cocaine should realise the impact it has on the communities it comes from. It's a huge impact upon where it arrives from and where it comes to. So to put on a shipment of this scale is quite a complicated arrangement and done very, very professionally.
Has the cause of death been identified for the diver?
No, he's to be examined by the coroner this morning.
Is there any indication that some of the cocaine was potentially trafficked down the highway to Sydney? Will we be looking at that?
Far too early for the retail outlets, but Sydney is a huge market. I think we're all aware of that. And it's of concern to, obviously, police and health that so much cocaine is consumed within the Sydney Basin.
Considering that there was two boats used in the information, can you talk to the fact that there was some well-done works involved and the complete disregard of this man's life that was behind when something's been arrived?
It's of concern that there's evidently more people involved than the dead man. As most people would realise, people don't scuba dive alone. There is obviously safety protocols even with people involved in offending. It was quite complicated in some of the devices they used, and the presence of two boats indicate at least two other people. And as stated, it's very concerning that this man has been left for dead, basically, to either to die or when he did die, and these people fled. So it's quite disgusting that this man's been left to die, regardless of what he was involved with. And again, I remain open-minded as to what he was actually doing. But nonetheless, we need to speak to those people involved in those boats. They may be innocent people as well. So we ask them to come forward to us sooner than later.
Just a question for Matthew. Yep. Matthew, will you be looking at sort of the ANOM Act at all in terms of this investigation, or what will Operation Ironside be doing in terms of collaborating with South Africa?
Absolutely, that's definitely one line of inquiry that we'll be looking into, as well as I said earlier, reaching into our partners across South America to try and identify the shipment routes of the drugs and also the identity of the person as well, the deceased.
while we're on the topic, in regards to Operation Ironside, it seems to have been quite successful for police. Where are criminals moved now that they don't trust encrypted devices?
In general?
Yeah.
Well, look, encrypted devices are still a concern for us and certainly still an avenue of inquiry, so that is something that they're still continuing to use.
Do criminals still trust them?
Some elements of the criminal community do trust them, yes, but we also have seen after Operation Ironside a shift from the use of encrypted devices as well to face-to-face meetings and also to other forms of communication as well.
It's a question for training, if I can. Given that the drugs potentially were in the hull or on the ocean floor, do you believe criminal syndicates are becoming smarter in how they...
Oh, look, transnational organised crime is very sophisticated and are using every bit of technology available to them. Underwater concealments of this nature are seen worldwide. As has been mentioned, look, the crew and potentially have no idea that there are narcotics placed on board the hull of the vessel. There are a number of different attachment points where narcotics can be concealed. The ABF works very, very closely with New South Wales Police and the AFP. If we have information, we'll assess that, send divers down on those vessels, and also use underwater technologies such as remote operated vehicles to support that. But it is certainly something that we are aware of and working very closely both here locally and with our international partners.
Are you seeing more incidents like these even now borders opened up to change?
Look, I think certainly organised crime has diversified over the COVID period. What we have seen from an ABF point of view is a lot more narcotics, firearms and child exploitation material of that sort of nature coming through our air cargo streams and also our mail streams. We have surged a number of officers into those areas, and we have obviously identified, a significant amount coming through. So they have diversified. Obviously, from a transnational organised point of view, yes, concealments of this nature will probably continue.
What sort of methodology does it appear that these particular people have been using? So the scuba diver, the boats, how does it all sort of potentially link up?
With respect, I think we'd rather keep that to ourselves. That's part of our ongoing
Do you
inquiry.
think this is their first go at it?
No, this was a well-drilled professional group, quite comfortable doing what they were doing, comfortable sending drugs on a ship across the world, again, to target our community here in Australia, so they knew exactly what they were doing.
Considering I'm sure there's no real to it, there's just sort of the ships manifest, do you believe that they were in Australia beforehand, potentially they had been?
We're trying to confirm the movements of the deceased man, and we believe he travelled separately to the vessel with the information to hand, but that could change. But the indications are he travelled separately to the ship.
Oh, good.
Thanks, folks. Thank you.
Thank you.